Okay, 6 days and counting until Election Day. And tonight, we're talking about school boards. They are the largest body of elected officials, and just handfuls of people used to turn out for their meetings. But since the pandemic, politics, and Zoom, school board meetings now draw crowds of people. About half of the roughly 5,000 school board seats in California are up for election this year. And whether you're a parent or not, research shows that school districts can impact property values. So tonight, we explain what school boards really do and how their politics are making more headlines than declining test scores.
School boards are hugely important. They hire and fire the superintendent, who is the boss of the entire district. School boards decide on curriculum, and they also decide on school closures and school openings. That school boards create the vision of education for a given district.
That's Carol Lloyd, editorial director of Great Schools, a nonprofit who focuses on helping parents understand the roles they play in their students' education, from understanding data to advocating for improvement or explaining what school boards do.
It's typically a nonpartisan election. That doesn't mean that people don't have strong views, and you wouldn't be able to notice. By reading someone's views, you might be able to glean what their background is. You might be able to find out who's funding them and why they're funding them. And that might give you insight into whether or not you agree with this candidate. But it's one of those election areas which is not run by the Democratic Party or by the Republican Party because of the hot button issues that have been raised, and some groups seeing school board elections as a way to build political momentum in one direction or another. I do think that the school board elections have become more partisan.
This year, the California Republican Party is making its biggest push to get candidates in school board seats. I sat down with Samia Kamal. She's a political reporter at Cal Matters, a nonprofit, nonpartisan news organization who's been covering the political push in school board elections. Let's start with the California Republican Party. How have they really changed the landscape of school board elections?
We don't typically see the state parties get involved in these local races. You might see county parties endorse candidates, but the California Republican Party has this program called Parents Revolt, and they were recruiting candidates. They were providing information, best practices on tips for running, how to succeed, who should run.
But this program was new.
This is new, yeah.
So what's the end goal here for California Republicans? What is the strategy, and why do they want to get school board candidates in these seats?
So there are two goals. One is to build a backbench of candidates who might run for, higher office later on, and that's part of this big picture strategy of, reinforcing and growing the California Republican Party in the state. But it's also, trying to get more people out to the ballot box who might not be voting.
And how effective are they at recruiting candidates? How's the program operating so far?
So the California Republican Party hasn't shared how many people have been recruited. Some of the summer virtual events that were held hosted about 100 people each.
And Democrats, what are they doing? What is their strategy? Are they also trying to get candidates in these seats?
The Democratic Party in California does not have an equivalent counterpart program. They do have a national program where they are trying to make sure no race goes uncontested.
I want to talk about school board districts themselves. How do they feel about all of this? I mean, school board races are becoming so not just popular, but also politicized and contentious at this point.
I think it's a bit nerve-wracking. There is an increased, fear, nervousness about threats, about, anger at these meetings, the heightened need for security. I know some school board officials called in their local Democratic Party to come in and assure the members and the candidates that it's safe to run.
Oftentimes, parents have strong opinions about what is going on in their children's schools, but they're not always as represented as one might think in the school board. It's really important for parents to understand this isn't only a place to go argue about something that is immediate that is bothering you now, but this is really a chance for a group of people to sort of look into the future and decide how we can improve all kids' access to better learning experiences across the board. The school boards have always been a little bit ignored. So I think there's an opportunity, since school boards are suddenly getting this focus, that we understand how important they are. But the downside of that is that they can become distracted away from really fundamental learning issues. Like, are the kids learning to read? Are the kids learning to do math? Are the schools physically safe? You know, these fundamental things that like 99.9% of all parents would agree, no matter what their politics are, they would agree that these are fundamental things that schools need to do. And I think that one of the problems sometimes is if the adults go out fighting around one issue. Schools are complex places and they're trying to do a lot. And I think that some of the frustration with teachers and educators now is that they've seen their work come into sort of a political focus, but they're like, but wait, I still need support for Johnny because he still can't read at grade level. A lot of times when people are fired up about one issue and then they get into the job, they realize it's more complex. And I think that may be happening across our country as new people come into power in the school boards and start to learn about what the job really is.
When considering a school board candidate, Carol also says that you should check to make sure that they are committed to helping schools, or are they just trying to advance their political career? So you want to make sure that you have someone who understands your district's policies, their guidelines, needs, challenges, and their strengths.